Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you and your family cruise a little smarter. And it's just me today with this episode. Chris and Christy are finishing up their time together down in Florida on the Wish. But I'd like to welcome today to the show, Alex and Anthony, all the way down in Los Angeles. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Doing well.
Thanks for getting up early in the morning. Hopefully you had your coffee. I had my coffee to try and keep up with you guys this morning. And we're going to have a little bit of fun talking Disney Cruise Line.
Fantastic.
Well, before we jump into it, let's get a little bit of a background about the two of you. What got you into Disney? Is it something that you guys did together down in the parks and everything like that? You guys are down near the Disneyland area. And how did you find Disney Cruise Line?
Yeah, so we are actually fortunate enough to live just about 35 minutes from the Disneyland Resort. So
oh my gosh.
It's common for us to just pop down after work for a sweet treat or just to get on a ride or two and then head back home. So yeah, we both grew up in this area. Disneyland is just part of the culture out here. Everyone goes all the time.
Disney was actually our second date.
So yeah, it was our second date. Yeah. But we're also Magic Key holders, and we've also previously been annual pass holders pretty much most of our life. We've also been to Disney World twice in the last 2 years, so we also love Disney World. I guess another fun trip actually that we're looking forward to is in just about a month and a half, we're going to be going to Disneyland Paris for the first time. So we are obsessed with all Disney travel. Like when we want to plan a vacation, we always try it and incorporate Disney into it. And so, of course, naturally DCL is part of that.
DCL was definitely the next step in that. And I had not cruised before. Alex had cruised on a couple other cruise lines before, but always wanted to try Disney. So a couple years ago, we decided to try out the Wonder out of San Diego. And on our first Disney cruise together, I proposed to Alex, actually, in Animator's Palette.
Yeah, so we actually got engaged in Animator's Palette on the Wonder. So I feel like even though we haven't cruised any other ships, the Wonder will always have a special place in our heart because it's where we got engaged.
Well, especially since she said yes. So.
Oh, yeah, I did say that.
Okay, if you have a picture of that, you need to send me a picture because that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to go back and ask this too. That first date at Disneyland, did you guys find that you had a lot in common? Did you guys want to go on the same rides, eat some of the same food and stuff like that, or were you divergent?
Okay, so I will admit he had an annual pass at the time. Yeah. And I didn't, and I bought an annual pass on that second date, which I realized was probably really intimidating for him. Like,
I thought it was cool. I thought he must like it.
But no, we're both really easygoing. I mean, like, we just love the ambiance of Disney and walking around and
getting an ice cream and
ice cream. Always ice cream.
That's what we did last night too. So.
Well, I know a lot of us are jealous to be. Well, I know Chris Bright too from the show. Being able to go down to Disneyland and spend that time down there. Jealous in a good way. Wish we could be, experiencing that ambiance as much too. Okay, so you guys went on the Wonder. So you've only been on the Wonder. How many cruises have you been on?
Well, we had done one other Disney cruise, so in 2018.
Okay.
Or 2019.
Yeah, so we went on our very first cruise in October of 2019, and on day 1 or 2, we had already booked a placeholder, and after getting engaged, we knew that placeholder would definitely be used for honeymoon. So we got married in 2020, and so we booked, of course, before all the pandemic stuff happened. We had booked a double dip Bohemian cruise for November 2020. So that did not happen. And so when Disney graciously extended it, there was like a 125% credit, rebooking credit. So we kind of pivoted and we're like, as amazing as it would be to do a Bohemian, because we haven't done that, why don't we use that extra money and put it towards Alaska? Because that's been kind of like a bucket list. So we rebooked for Alaska, an Alaskan cruise in 2021, but of course that also did not happen. So we rebooked for May of 2022. And 1 week before we were supposed to leave, my lovely husband got COVID.
Oh no.
So yeah, it was his first time. I hadn't gotten COVID at that point. So we quickly pivoted again and we were like, okay, let's just rebook everything for 1 month out. so that we can work on getting, one, you healthy,
Yeah.
and two, we can start working on all the 90-day recovered paperwork.
Right. There's a lot of paperwork to get into Vancouver from the States, coming in there for all the COVID testing and the proper documentation and whatnot. So, yeah, I had to qualify and get the 90-day recovered
Doctor's
stamp of
notes
approval.
and everything submitted. So that's when we actually rebooked for June of this year.
I know things have kind of changed since then as far as going into and out of Canada a little bit. So you probably went through the stringent part as far as, getting all that paperwork and heading up there. A little bit of not that you ever want to say COVID's a good thing, but a little bit of relief, at least for you not having to do the test. But Alex, you had to do the test then at the terminal, right? At that time, or did they change it differently?
So that was at the time Disney had just, I think the week prior, changed it to where you didn't test at the terminal, but you could submit it 48 hours in advance.
That's okay. I couldn't remember when that kicked in, because like in Europe, we still had to do it, and they just changed it to Europe, I guess, to some of the sailings over there. So all right, so you did the home test.
Yeah, so we bought some of those approved kits that you could travel with that are proctored, and so I actually did my test Anthony didn't have to go through any of that since he did all his 90-day recovered, but we did have to travel with that. And I actually did it at the airport. So
yeah, we just wanted to be able to submit that as soon
as possible, because you know how it is. It's like just the anxiety. It's like I am not going on the cruise until I see the negative on that.
Right.
It's like it's not really happening, and especially with our luck and having to rebook this cruise somewhat like 3-4 different times. Yeah, we were just like we don't believe we're going to go on this cruise until we're on this cruise.
All right. So just real quick, Chris and Chrissy will kill me if I don't ask this question. So this wasn't your honeymoon then. Where did you guys go for your honeymoon?
So honeymoon, we actually had two things that we were supposed to do. We were supposed to do the Bohemian cruise, and then before that we were going to do 3 days in Disney World. So we thought, okay, we'll push the cruise portion ahead, and then we'll add an extra day onto the Disney World trip and do all 4 parks. So that's what we did. We did 4 full days in Disney World. And
it was actually his first time at Disney World. I had previously gone. Yeah, that was still, we still wanted to. I mean, there was still so many COVID restrictions, and it was interesting, I think, getting to see the parks all just during the COVID time. Yeah, during the COVID time, and then having that be your first experience and having it still be super magical and fun.
And that was still at a time where you had to wear the masks around the park, even outdoors. So wearing the mask, my glasses would fog up the entire time. So it was an interesting, unique experience. So we were able to get half of our honeymoon in at that point.
But I remember the first time I went there, Disney World is just so much bigger than Disneyland. It's kind of almost overwhelming. I mean, how big it is when you get down there.
Oh yeah, it was definitely overwhelming, but we've been obsessed since. So
we've done another trip after that because we were like, we gotta get back, like the obsession, because we knew we couldn't do a cruise for a while, and we were just dying. We're like, how are we this obsessed with Disney Cruise Line and we've only been on one cruise? How?
It's the best, I think, because you get that feeling at Disney. You get the whole, you're inside the Disney bubble. You get your Disney fix, but a little bit more relaxing at times too. So
absolutely,
and you get to go places too, which is kind of cool. All right, well, let's talk about this cruise. It leaves out of Vancouver. Had you guys been to Vancouver before?
No, it was our first time doing Vancouver too. So we were able to go. We went on a Saturday morning, and we departed on the cruise Monday. So we were able to kind of get a day and a half in Vancouver to kind of see some of the sights there. And really, really beautiful area too.
We loved it, actually. We went to the Capilano bridges, suspension bridges, and had a blast there. Absolutely beautiful. Highly recommend that place.
I'd love to go see it, but you're not going to get me on that bridge. No way. Too high. Yeah, what a beautiful city. Did you guys stay in the city, or where did you guys stay beforehand?
Yeah, so we stayed actually at the, we have it here actually. It's the Marriott Pinnacle. So it's a walking distance from the cruise terminal. So yeah, we stayed right in the heart of kind of the Vancouver downtown area.
I mean, it's such a beautiful city, so walkable. You can get down to Stanley Park. You can watch the seaplanes come in and out and everything like that. So much good food down there too. So what a beautiful city.
Yeah, no, absolutely gorgeous.
Okay, well, let's turn to the cruise itself. So it had been before COVID, since you've been on the Wonder. Right. I love asking this question. What was it like getting back on the Wonder, the ship that you sailed on before and after COVID? Well, COVID's still kind of going on. But after all this time to actually step back on the ship, what was it like to get back on the Disney Wonder?
I had actually been worried about it because I had thought, wow, I had such an amazing time the first time we went on it. Is it going to live up to what my memory has now created of the ship? And the second we get on board, it's like, oh yeah, no, this is 100% exactly what I remember, and it's just as magical and just as special. And there was even a sense that I hadn't anticipated was it kind of felt like, oh, this is like a second home kind of to us because we've had experiences here now, and it was really beautiful walking on board again.
And the smell, the Disney, I don't know if it's just, we haven't been on any other ships in the Wonder, but it has this beautiful smell, and I was instantly brought back to our 2019 cruise. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just like being home again.
I'm with you. The smells and the music, it does. It feels like home, and I don't know how to describe it until you step on and experience it.
Yeah, it's completely something different.
So Alaska, pretty much an iconic and bucket list cruise for a lot of people. It's 7 days up there, several different stops. What were your guys' thoughts as far as the port adventures? Did you book through Disney or did you book outside? What were you hoping to do while you were up in Alaska?
We had watched a lot of vlogs beforehand. We're definitely those people. We like to see people on the excursions before we pick. We had booked our Skagway day, which was day 4. We had booked, it was like a wilderness glacier safari. Highly recommend that one. Oh my gosh, we got to see wolves in the wild on our bus ride to canoeing. We got to canoe to a glacier. So that was kind of our plan for Skagway. Thankfully, I was able to enjoy that one. We did have the deluxe tour of Juneau planned, but that was the day that I tested positive, so we weren't able to enjoy that one. And then, of course, Ketchikan is the day after, so we were also still in isolation. So I really only got to experience Skagway.
And I guess we just let the cat out of the bag that you guys tested positive, and we're gonna talk quite a bit about that. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit more about this cruise. Besides Skagway, you also were able to go up to Dawes Glacier, I would believe.
Yeah.
Right? So you had that day as well to be able to experience the glaciers and stuff like that. Did you look into or even think about doing there's you can get on a smaller boat and get closer to the glaciers? Did you guys look at that at all?
We looked into it, but we thought, for our budget, we just thought, it's a little bit out of our reach, and we just thought, I'm sure the time we're going to have on board the Wonder in that location is still going to be just as amazing. And
we bundled up, and we came a little not prepared for as cold as it was going to be, and so we went down to the gift shop and bought scarves and mittens. Yeah, we spent pretty much that entire, I think it's an
8-hour day almost.
We spent it on the upper deck taking pictures with all the characters in their cute Alaska outfits. We spent most of that day on the upper deck, to be honest.
That's kind of what we did too. So did they have a naturalist on board that kind of give you some history of sailing up to Alaska? And then when we did it, they were able to talk most of the way up, and then they had to be quiet, I guess, when they got close to the glacier, kind of to give you that history and background of the glaciers.
So something that actually we were struggling with was finding out where, because we could kind of vaguely hear through some speaker, some conversations going on, but we couldn't hear it. And we were trying to figure out where we were supposed to be able to hear it. We kept running back and forth. We're like, I think I can hear a little something over here. Where is this coming from? So we kind of missed
a lot of what the naturalist was talking about, right? If we were on the outside, on the upper decks. The speakers were actually really low, so we couldn't quite hear what the naturalist was saying a lot of the time. But they did have a seminar thing that happened earlier in the morning that we were able to attend, kind of in preparation for Dawes Glacier.
That teaches you about the glaciers and the icebergs and learning differences between them. And so that was, actually, I think that was on our Skag.
Yeah, they actually had two days of those. One for the wildlife, and then one for the actual glaciers themselves.
And then another one all about whales and porpoises. So really enjoyed all those. And we love that they kind of have that component on the cruise, so you can just learn about what you're about to experience. It makes it just that much more rewarding.
Well, it's good to hear that they're still doing that then, because I mean, like you said, I think it adds to your whole kind of enjoyment and understanding of what you're being able to see. I do know, I remember that they had to stop talking at a certain time. We were up on the upper deck too. I thought we could hear it, but it's been quite a while now since I've been there. Maybe it was only piped into deck 4, or maybe they kept it so low because there's like regulations against sound that they're allowed to do or something like that once they get closer to the glaciers. So
that's about right. Their speaker system's pretty good on board, so I would assume that they had it down for a reason.
Yeah.
Let's stick with the Port Adventure thing. Anything else you want to talk about your time in Skagway? That sounds like just a magical adventure to be able to canoe up there to a glacier. What else did you guys get to experience on that Port Adventure?
So that excursion was 6 to 8 hours?
Yeah, I think
it was a really long one. So pretty much our entire day was on that excursion. It starts with about an hour boat ride to sort of like a camp area, and then they gave us lunch there, so we had a small lunch, and then they bussed us to the area. They bussed us to an area where we then got into like boots and life jackets, and we got divided up into our canoeing groups and met our guide, and then we all kind of just went out to the Davidson Glacier, and there were some people who were drinking the water. They said we could.
Yeah.
But at that moment I was like, I'm feeling real good. I don't want to catch anything. So maybe I'll avoid drinking the water. But there were people that were like, they're like drinking the fresh glacier water, saying it was like so crisp and cold and something, because it was kind of warm that day. It was like 70, 75 degrees. Mm-hmm. But it's crazy. Like once you start getting just like closer to the glacier, it dropped like 10 degrees. And
you get that glacier wind that comes right off the glacier mm-hmm. there. And that temperature just drops.
We saw eagles while we were canoeing.
Yeah, so it's a really fun, unique experience. And they tell you kind of while you're canoeing how much the glacier river changes over the course of a couple of days, and how, a couple of days ago it was actually, 2 feet higher, or it was going in a completely different direction. So you know that whatever experience you're having at that moment is completely unique to that moment, which makes it more special.
My parents and my sisters are actually on the same itinerary right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they were sending us pictures from Davidson Glacier, which they did just a couple days ago, and we're like, whoa, you could see the difference already just from our pictures, how they change and fluctuate just from even just 2 weeks, 3 weeks difference.
So let's get back on the ship then before we talk about testing positive with COVID. Did you guys book a balcony cabin, or what did you book, and what would you kind of recommend for people on this type of sailing?
So we had an inside stateroom for this one. We figured, we just want to get on the ship. And we figured that with the Alaska cruise, we're going to spend most of our time outdoors anyway. We might as well just you use what money we have, get on the ship, and so we wound up with an inside stateroom.
We also love inside staterooms. Yeah. I've done verandas and portholes on other cruise lines, and I mean, they're awesome, but I love how I sleep on an inside stateroom because it's just so dark. I would actually recommend paying for the upgrades for the room so that you could actually see out the whole time.
At least a porthole. We think that was kind of. It'd be nice to be able to see it when you're not outside, and you can experience it a little bit more warmer climate. But we also found that if we had a veranda, we were spending all of our day kind of in our veranda room looking at one side, we would have completely missed the other side of what we're seeing.
And that's actually because there's people, the top deck is filled with people when you're going through that, like heading towards that glacier, and there would be kind of people calling out like, oh, I see like a whale over here, and then we would like run over there, and like we were able to do that, where I think like if you were confined to like just the view in your room, you wouldn't really be able to do that. So we actually really enjoyed being on the upper deck most of the day. However, I would say, veranda would probably be the way to go if you're able to. If you can.
No, those are really good points because it's so narrow. Some of the inside passages you go up that you've got land on either side of you can see really well. So it's not like if you just happen to be going by an island and you can sit on your veranda and watch that island go by or something like that, because there is stuff happening on both sides of the ship a lot of the times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would recommend bringing binoculars. I totally texted my parents once we got like, I'm like, make sure you bring binoculars, because we didn't. And we were kind of standing next to people who had binoculars, because they were the ones kindly pointing out like things that they were seeing. Like there was like, were they seals?
Yeah.
Seals, like some real cute baby seals on little icebergs. And so we were like trying to see, like we could kind of see their movement, but not as clear as people with binoculars that could actually make out how cute they were.
Yeah.
We forgot to bring ours too. Luckily, my dad brought his, and so we were borrowing his quite a bit. Did you guys see whales by any chance? Did you see any whales?
We actually saw quite a few whales.
Okay.
We didn't see any that actually completely emerged out of the water, but we did see quite a few whale tails, and we saw the spouts coming up, and so yeah, there were actually quite a lot of wildlife. We were surprised at how much. We actually thought, oh, maybe we'll see one, but it was every day on the ship we could see them, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and our Skagway excursion too, since it did have an hour boat ride to and from, we did see whales on that one too, which is cool because we were a little closer than we were on the cruise ship.
I've actually never seen them really up close. I've only seen them like from a long distance away. So looking forward to hopefully somebody going up to Alaska and seeing that again. All right, one last topic here before we turn to your experiences once you tested positive on the ship. What was it like to go back to Animator's Palette after knowing that you got engaged there on the last setting? Were you like close to the same part of the restaurant? What was that like?
We were actually on the exact opposite side, but we walked past the table. We both like looked at it and we're like, oh yeah, that's where that happened just a couple of years ago. So it was really special to kind of get to go back into that space. So.
See, we laughed because it was really funny because actually, just small side note, right when he was about to propose and pulled out the ring, I saw our waiter coming, and I had asked, I didn't know, of course, I was about to get engaged in that moment. I had asked I'd asked our waiter something, and he was kindly coming back with the answer. So I see Anthony pulling the ring out and the waiter like rushing towards me. And right as Anthony's about to propose, the waiter's like, and tonight's entertainment. And so he like accidentally like crashed it, but it's just the funniest memory. And like we tried to hide it like so well, like we didn't want him to like feel bad because that was like day one. Yeah. And they were real sweet. I think someone did eventually kind of maybe like another head server saw and like pointed it out, and they had a special dessert for us the next day. But
I actually loved it because it's one of those things that it makes it more memorable for some reason. Even though the little things, it's like, well, we will remember that forever, and it's kind of a special thing.
Actually, on our way out, we like literally like just a few minutes after we got engaged, they were trying to recruit us for the newlywed game, and they're like, "Oh, how long have you guys been together?" We're like, "Well, we've been engaged for about 5 whole minutes."
Yeah, you guys have been perfect for Match Your Mate up there. So that's like, I love going to watch that. You get some pretty good entertainment. You get some good couples up there. So yeah. All right, let's turn to day 4 then, when you tested positive for COVID. No shade whatsoever when I ask you this, because we were just on the Magic for 9 days and we didn't wear our mask all the time. I would say probably hardly anybody really wore their mask. There were some people. I didn't really feel really uncomfortable. We spent a lot of time up on the pool deck, but we did get a movie one time. And I remember it was like one of the last days and people were coughing all around. And I was like, man, I wonder, maybe I should be putting my mask on or something like that. What was your guys' thoughts going into this cruise? Were you worried about it? I know that, Anthony, you had tested positive recently. So what were you guys' thoughts? And like I said, no shade. This is no shade whatsoever.
No, of course.
No, it honestly wasn't on my mind at all. Like once we actually got on the ship, we were taking our cues from what pretty much everybody else was doing, and we thought we're going to be on a tiny ship with a lot of people for quite a few days. So let's get a feel for what everybody else is kind of up to, and then we'll kind of take our cue from that. And really nobody was wearing their mask.
Definitely though, like for sure, like when we were traveling to, on the airplanes, like we wore our mask, we were, trying to be extra careful. And even before, like in planning for our trip, because Anthony had just gotten COVID, we were Instacarting all of our groceries, only going out, like I would say the 2 weeks before our cruise, only going out if we absolutely needed to, just because we so wanted this cruise to finally just be able to happen. We didn't want to have to rebook. Yeah, we decided that once we got on the cruise, we would always have a mask on us. But yeah, nobody was wearing masks. Like pretty much nobody was wearing masks on the cruise. But we always had one with us, in case we felt uncomfortable, in case we're sitting next to someone in a show and they're coughing a lot or something. We would just always have it on hand. But we didn't actually really wear it throughout the whole time.
No, I totally understand that. And did you guys have main dining or second dining?
Second dining.
And was it full around you? Like, because that was the other thing I was thinking about. Like for us, we were in second dining. There was like nobody near us. We're like in this dining room, nine nights, and we really didn't sit next to too many people.
We asked about capacity. We asked our head server about capacity. What did he say it was?
He said it's about 2/3 full.
Okay.
And we found that to be true even at dining, where you could feel that it was not at full capacity at all.
We were sitting next to we were definitely next to some full tables, but it was really in the middle that you could kind of see oh yeah, there's a lot of empty tables. Probably more so in second dining too, because I know first dining's a lot more popular with the kiddos.
Right.
Also really accommodating because we asked for our own table, just our own little separate table, and they said, oh yeah, we have plenty. So
and they actually told us that that's the reason why they're not in the restaurants anyways, they're not sailing at full capacities because they're trying to accommodate, because everyone's requesting their own table right now. So they don't have the staff to be able to. What was the whole deal with that? Our server was...
He was just saying that, yeah, since everybody's kind of asking for their own table, they are trying to limit how many people are in the space. So that's why they're kind of capping the capacity for the ship.
It totally makes sense. Okay, so take us through how this kind of worked out for you guys. So you started to feel not so great.
Yeah.
How did that process work? Did you contact the medical center, or what did you guys do?
So it was actually after our Skagway day. So on day 4 was when we had that long excursion day. And on our boat ride back, I started to kind of feel a little bit of a tickle in my throat, but I couldn't tell because we had been, in the woods and we had been canoeing and there was a lot of physical activity. So it could have been pollen, because I really felt fine aside from just a tickle in my throat. And so, with it just being, we're all a little more paranoid now. So we got back from our excursion with about, 40 minutes before our dining time. And so I was I'm going to we traveled with a few tests just in case. And so I'm I know it's just a tickle. I feel fine. Aside from that, I tested because I didn't feel comfortable going to dinner unless I had that confirmation. I'm cool. It's probably just in my head. So I tested before dinner and it was very negative. So, we got ready, went to dinner, and then pretty much just went to sleep after our dining. I woke up in the morning because we actually had, so day 5 was now Juneau Day, and we had our 7:45 meeting time. So we woke up, alarm went off at 7, and I'm full on sick. I have a sore throat, I have a headache, and it was the headache that was oh no. So Anthony was just right away. He's don't worry. It's probably, it could be just something totally not COVID. I'll notify our tour, that we're not going to be there. So nobody's waiting for us. You just focus on getting rest. So he noticed though, since we were at port in Juneau, that there was a pharmacy close by.
There's a couple little pharmacies in Juneau. So I thought, you know what, if she has a little cold, I'll kind of run into town. I'll grab
some Robitussin,
just something to kind of ease her throat, her sore throat a little bit. While I was in the little pharmacy, I thought, well, they have some extra COVID tests. We just used the last one on Alex the day before, and I thought, okay, I'll grab a couple extras just in case. It's always good to travel with some just as a precaution. Well, when I got back on the ship, Alex had just gotten ready. We were going to go on to the top deck to kind of get just a little light lunch. And she was feeling pretty good at that point. But
I still had a pretty bad headache. Still feeling not super well, but there was no way I was going to leave the room until I had tested again, especially because I now had the headache. And I knew I was not well when I could only eat 1 Mickey waffle. That's never been, usually I could eat at least 3. And I was I don't feel good. I can only eat 1 Mickey waffle. And so that was the way I determined that I was not well, was by that. But so immediately took the COVID test that Anthony had bought, and I remember we were both just sitting on the little sofa there, put the 3 little drops in, and we're both just staring at the test, and right away it was positive.
Oh no.
We both just kind of sat there for a few seconds in silence.
That's right. And okay, now what?
Okay, so obviously a million thoughts sort of racing through your head, because this is what everyone dreads, right? This is what everyone traveling right now is dreading. Like, this is worst case scenario.
But we knew the first thing we had to do was call downstairs and get Disney involved. We thought, okay, well, we obviously have to protect everybody else on board. We have to protect the crew and all the guests. So call downstairs, let them know that we just tested positive, or that
I
did tested positive on a home test, and they said, okay, we'll be right up. We're going to do a PCR test, and then in about an hour's time, we'll give you a call about the results. So about 10 minutes later, a gentleman came up and swabbed, did the PCR swab, and said, as a precaution, just go ahead, pack some things. Have some things ready to go if this PCR test comes up positive, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
There may be an isolation period for you.
So they did say we'll get back to you within an hour. So because I already knew I was positive from the test, I knew it was very unlikely that it was false. We packed everything. We packed everything quickly. Just wanted to get ready because we did know that there was an isolation situation, that we knew just as we were listening to all the cruise updates over the years that cruise lines would have to allocate a special area in the ship for people who test positive. So I knew we would be moving. So
yeah, no, that makes sense. And talking to other people that we're doing back-to-backs, and they didn't want to leave their stuff in the room just like that too, because if they tested positive at the port as they came back on, somebody else is going to have to take care of it. So I totally understand wanting to have all your stuff with you. So once they came back and told you were positive, what did they go from there? Did you guys both have to move into isolation? And where is the isolation on the Wonder?
So interestingly, they said, well, under normal circumstances, anybody that would be in the same stateroom as you would have to isolate as well. So, however, you're kind of in a unique position because I am 90-day recovered. And they said, because you're 90-day recovered, you have the option to either enter into isolation with your wife or stay in this room and continue enjoying the ship for the next couple of days.
And you wanted to stay married, so...
Of course. Well.
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. If you want me to cut that out, I'll cut it out.
And then he went and had brunch at Power So he kindly, we weren't, because it had only literally been a couple weeks since he had COVID, we knew the likelihood of him getting reinfected in the same month is very slim.
Pretty minimal.
Yeah, which is why Disney gave him that option, but we decided to isolate together. Where that was on the ship was deck 2 all the way forward.
And then what kind of room did they give you? Did they give you the same type of room you had, or were you able to get a veranda where you could at least go sit outside a little bit?
So that was my concern. I thought, boy, if we have to be completely locked into
we still have 3 days, right?
Right.
That'd be a little tough. But they actually gave us a split bathroom porthole. So we were able to, obviously with the veranda, there may be some issues with that, but
that's a good point there.
With the porthole, I think that was a lifesaver, especially since it completely reduced the cabin fever sensation of the whole thing. So we were able to look outside quite a lot, and there were so many sights to see, especially on this cruise, even staying in the room completely the whole time.
They did give me when they brought us down there, they did give me sort of like a COVID goodie bag, is what I called it. It was just a brown bag with some generic medication, like Dayquil or some lozenges, and so that was nice. And also the gentleman who walked us down, his name was Ian. He was from the medical staff. So kind. So he was just this tall, sweet British man who was just so reassuring. And he did tell us though that we were the first one of the day. So I think we got brought down to our isolation area around 1:00.
Something like that, yeah.
Between noon and 1. And he said we were the first ones for the day. And we were kind of able to determine that there really were only about 1 or 2 other people or rooms that were being used for isolation, which we thought was actually really good for it being day 5 already, and nobody else was really sick. So I think that was an indicator too. And we were looking through our little peephole to see around meal times, we were trying to figure out how many of us are there here in this area, and there really wasn't many when we got brought down. I would say only 1 or 2 other rooms were being used. So I think that's a testament to how good of a job Disney's doing, which is their protocol and just like cleanliness, because it was already towards the end of the cruise and there really weren't that many people in isolation.
So what was it like then? I guess, so you guys spent the rest of the cruise in your cabin there.
Yeah, so we spent the rest of I think it was about 3.5 days in the cabin. And at this point we're thinking, well, we don't have any idea kind of what the next steps are going to look like. What we were told, entering the room is, call down for whatever you need, whatever you want. We'll take care of your meals and everything like that. And you can, you don't just have to eat off of the
room service.
The room service menu. So actually, this is something that was so incredibly kind. We were surprised, but so we called for dinner and they said we kind of wanted to continue, like, even though we were in isolation, we wanted to still eat the menu from our dining rotation. We were able to call and actually get, like, I think the first night was like we were supposed to be in Tiana's or something. So we were able to order everything we would have wanted to order had we been in the actual dining room. And our head server brought it to our door.
Oh.
And we developed a bit of a relationship with him over the last couple of days.
Shout out to Rupesh.
Yeah, thank you, Rupesh. But yeah, he was it was just so nice to be able to see kind of a friendly face that we had kind of gotten to know over the last few days. Because
we were sad too, because we had already developed sort of like little friendships with our servers, like you do on Disney cruises, and we're like, no, we didn't get to say goodbye, and like, but to the fact that, like, I mean, by no means did they have to have our head server drop our dinner off. Like, they're so busy. Like, the fact that they did that was just so, like, touching, weirdly.
Yeah, that's just so well thought out to take care of you to that level, knowing that, I mean, you were excited to be on this, vacation. And I think that's just like that Disney touch where, they want to keep that. I mean, I don't know if it's really magic. I think it is magic in some ways, but, that quality product going to give you the best sailing that they can, even though you're in kind of a tough situation.
Right. And one thing we were concerned about, because at this point, so I would say they kind of just told us the first day, like they called and a nurse called and checked on me every single day. Every single day, a nurse from their medical staff called our room and wanted to make sure I was, like, not in need of anything. Thankfully, my symptoms were, I mean, it was not fun having COVID on the ship, and I was coughing and unwell, but I wasn't super, super, super sick or anything. So it was comforting, though, knowing that if I did need any kind of medical attention, that there was a team there that was caring and was available.
Did they retest you then every day, or was it one of those things of like, well, we're just gonna have, I mean, it's just gonna play itself out and we'll retest you later? I'm not even sure how that even works, I guess.
For them, it was a one PCR test was enough.
Okay.
For them to qualify it as positive. So there are a few things that were interesting. Is they, I think they have a team dedicated to COVID. So there were a lot of layers, a lot of people that actually are involved with the COVID regulations on board. It seemed like. So we were told that because we would have to disembark in Vancouver, we were then subject to the Canadian regulations about COVID. So,
which we had no idea about. That was the part that we did not research. We did not think through if one of us gets sick, what happens. And I think it's partially because, like, you don't want to think about that. But I would recommend thinking about that.
So at that point, they said, well, the Canadian regulations are you are mandated to isolate for 10 days from the date of your positive PCR test. So Disney told us, they said, you're spending 3 days on board, so that you would have to do an additional 7 days of isolation on shore once we disembark.
So we were freaking out at that point because we did have flights home for Monday when we would disembark. So we didn't have an internet package or anything like that. So we were trying to figure out, like, okay, when are we going to get in port so we can try and take care of business, because we need to cancel flights. We need to figure out, do we need to figure out a week's worth of hotel in Vancouver? We looked up that we wouldn't be allowed, because I was positive, we wouldn't be able to use any kind of public transportation. So we would need to be somewhere walking distance, I guess. So obviously all these thoughts are going through our heads, and we're just like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so much more expensive than we thought.
So
but
then we got an additional call from,
Mhm.
I think, somebody a little higher up in the COVID protocol business on board the ship, and he said I think it was maybe the best phone call I've ever had in my life, because at this point I'm freaking out a little bit about trying to figure out the planning, and he said, well, Disney will absolutely take care of the hotels for you, so. We will absorb all the cost of the hotels and your food, and we will get you to the hotel so that you don't have to worry about anything.
Oh, and
Wow.
you have to change your flights, and there's, an extra amount of money that it's not going to cost you to rebook those flights. We'll cover it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we were just
So it was
instantly
I think that
relieved.
we got that call about a day and a half before we disembarked. So that next day and a half, we were just we were completely at ease. At that, from where we were anyway. And thankfully, Alex's her COVID was fairly mild, so she was feeling pretty good the entire time. She had a couple of days of fever, but it wasn't terrible. It was mostly sleep.
Yeah.
So at that point we're thinking, wow, what an amazing service that
We had
Disney
no
is providing
idea.
for us. We didn't know that was even in the realm of possibilities. So we thought, what an amazing thing. And then late, I have to note that later that day, we actually got a knock on the door, and it was room service, and they said, "Oh, we have your cheese and champagne package." I thought I didn't. I said I didn't order that. I had the mask on, obviously, at that point. I said we didn't order that, and they said no, it's complimentary. It's part of the COVID package. So.
And so we were I definitely did not partake in the Prosecco because I was taking Tylenol and Robitussin and did not feel like drinking champagne. but Anthony definitely did. So how classy! Like, they're even bringing us alcohol and cheese. Like oh my gosh! Like, they have already done enough by easing our minds with basically saying they're gonna help us out while we're in Vancouver, and yeah, the fact that they.
Yeah, we're kind of we were getting emotional, I think, the entire experience, because we thought, we had no idea that we're in such good hands. With a company, so it's pretty amazing.
I knew at the very beginning they were doing a lot of stuff, but I mean, and thank you so much. I should have said this at the beginning. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this, because it's probably not easy to do, to talk about like like you said, like a million things going through your head when you see that positive, and like, where is this journey now going to take you? And it could happen to all of us. And so I just want to, from the bottom of my heart, say thank you for sharing this. That what an amazing weight off your shoulder to have everything set up for you and take you, or basically take care of you guys and get you home as well from this experience. So once you get to port, then what was that like? Once you guys got back to Vancouver, how did that all work for you?
Yeah, so once we got to port, we're still in the stateroom. We're getting ready. We were able to order room service breakfast that morning because they they know we couldn't go to one of the dining rotations that morning.
I will say too, there was a lot of ways you could tell when we were calling the front desk. They would be like, they weren't situations that they were quite used to, because even just like calling in the morning, because they don't usually offer, I don't think, room service on the day you disembark. But they're like, we'll get back to you quickly on, and let you know that situation. So actually kind of jumping a little bit back to, still on the topic of like how they kind of accommodated us.
Definitely. Sorry.
Yeah, no. It's okay. We didn't buy the photo package, but we knew that there were like two photos we wanted. We wanted the one with Mickey, and we wanted our glacier one. But we usually do that towards the end of our cruise. So we didn't go to like the little kiosk to buy our photos. So we called the front desk and we're like, hey, like, I don't know if this is possible, but is there a way that we can buy our photos from our room? We're in isolation. They passed that note along to the Shutter's manager. And like an hour later, we had an iPad delivered to the front of our door with our photos there, and we were able to buy them. So we were like, and it had a note from the manager, basically just like wishing us well and letting us know if we have any issues on buying our photos. But we could tell like they had just typed that note up probably. And then also too, we had bought the beer package, and so we still had our little beer card, so we hadn't actually gotten our actual mug to take home. And they were able to deliver our mugs to our room or right outside our door, and they put him in like this really nice DCL like padded cooler bag, and we were like, oh my gosh, no, we like just wanted the beer mugs, you know, but they went, you know, above and beyond again and like put it in like a really nice travel DCL bag. So those are kind of two other things that like really stood out to us on how they kind of made this tough time like just a little more magical.
Did you guys watch a lot of TV? Because they do have like the shows and stuff like that. Were you able to watch the you know, the shows? I mean, they're pre-taped and everything else, but
yeah. No,
we did. We watched all of the new. We love the new Mickey
shorts.
I like. Oh my gosh! I was like, I can't tell if I'm dreaming of Potato Land or I've just heard cartoons so many times. Like, oh my gosh, I don't know. And I was like kind of in and out of sleep trying to rest, but I'm like, oh my gosh, if I have to hear Potato Land one more time by like the final day. But yeah, we did watch some of the entertainment. I know it's kind of like pre-recorded, but we tried our very best to like anything we could do from our room that was like part of our original plan. We tried to still stick to that schedule because it made us feel a little better. So we did watch like, what was the show? It was
Frozen was one of the nights that we had.
Frozen, and then oh my gosh, what's the other show? Dream, Believe.
It's like I always get confused whether it's Believe or Disney Dreams. One of the two.
I think
yeah,
so we did watch that one.
Okay.
Yeah. We watched a lot of TV. Yeah.
Did they give you internet, or would you have had to bought that?
Yeah, so that was another thing.
Yeah, when I was still trying to figure out, you know, if I needed to book hotels, you know, I called down and I said, you know, I'm in one of the isolation rooms. I need to purchase some internet, and they said, oh, you're in isolation. We'll give you some internet for free. So they actually just added that to my account, where I was able to go online pretty quickly with it. So I mean, just again, so many little things that, you know, together add up just to make our experience so much easier.
Kind of ease that isolation of being down there too. So you get to the part where it's time to disembark in Vancouver. They've set up the hotel for you and kind of set things up food wise and everything else until it's time for you to go back to California. How did that work out?
Pretty interestingly, we were actually, they told us that we would be the last group of people to disembark the ship once everybody else is off. So they knocked on our door after everybody else was off the ship and gathered all of the isolation people into the atrium, and we were doing our counting. We were looking around, thinking, okay, who's here?
There was only 13 people, and not all of them were sick. So to me, that was actually pretty small numbers.
That's pretty nice. And so they put us onto a nice shuttle, take us to the Hilton Vancouver Airport, and you know,
it's a hotel too.
Yeah,
that's the name of the hotel. Yeah.
They say they're obviously there at the hotel. They know who we are. They know exactly what we're doing there. They
right.
Have up already, and it's a pretty nice room. So it's
a really nice hotel. Actually, yeah.
Nice hotel. Pretty spacious. Large.
It wasn't like a standard
room.
hotel room. It had like a full, almost like living room. It was almost like a suite. So.
Yeah. So a lot of room for us to kind of move around. I think it was the day that we got there, we got a call then from Kissimmee. It was actually a DCL phone number that called us, and it was the DCL reps, you know, saying like, okay, now that you're in the hotel, here's what the protocol is going to be. You know, order room service as much as you want. When you're sick of room service, get Uber Eats or DoorDash or whatever you want there, and just send us the receipts. You know, we'll pick that up, which we definitely used during that time.
Yeah, I'd say about like 3 or 4 days into room service, we started to realize like it's good, but we're tired of it, so we just did Uber Eats or. You know.
Yeah. So that was that, and from that point it was 7 days straight in the hotel room. And
yeah.
Is that a Canadian regulation that you had to stay 7 days, or was it?
We did get a phone call too from the Canadian government, kind of asking us questions and making sure we were in our room and letting us know that there were hefty fines if we leave our room, and we would not. But we were approved to leave on the 4th of July, which we felt was so fitting, right? We get to come back home to America on the 4th of July.
On its birthday.
That was a good way to celebrate.
So but the Canadian government is very involved. When you test positive, there's someone who calls you and asks you a lot of questions, and they want to make sure you're in your room. They asked things like, how are you getting your food while you're in isolation? So room service. And so yeah, they're very strict actually.
And then I also got the feeling that they were asking also about Disney Cruise Line, like is the because they obviously or Disney Cruise Line takes care of you the entire time, but I think the Canadian government wanted to make sure that DCL was obeying their laws and regulations too. So there's how did you get from the port to the hotel? We told them, well, we were on a shuttle that was completely private that went straight from the port to the hotel. And they're like, okay, good. And I could hear them checking the box that they were obeying.
And we were given a direct number to guest services. His name was Kevin. He picked up every time we called, pretty much. So yeah, that was really nice.
It may have been his personal cell.
Yeah, it might have been his personal cell.
We thought it's amazing to have, if we have any questions, we actually have a person with a name that we can call and ask.
So did you have to do any final medical procedures or anything like that? Did they test you before you went back to the States, or how did that kind of end up? Or were you just, once the 4th of July came, you were able to open the room and head back down to the airport?
It was actually pretty nice. So it was, I think this was about two or 3 weeks after the U.S. stopped requiring COVID tests to enter back into the United States. Exactly. Yeah. And so that was kind of a load off our mind. And we were looking into what the Canadian regulations were as far as, because it's all, there's, all we can do for several days is research what the regulations are for.
Right.
We did consider driving. I mean, since we are LA area, I mean, we could drive, but we found out that even to rent a car, a personal vehicle, and drive into the U.S., that still needed Canadian approval. Right.
So yeah, the good news is that because we were on a cruise ship, there's different regulations that apply to cruise ship passengers. So we didn't need to test to exit Canada. So we didn't have to actually test again or anything like that, which was nice.
Not that we're quite ready to finish up, but anything else that we haven't really touched on this whole experience that maybe I haven't asked the right questions, or things that you want to kind of pass on, whether it was back on the ship, time in the hotel, working with Disney or with the Canadian government?
The last thing I kind of have about Disney is 2 days after we got back, so I think it was July 6th, I got a call from somebody else from Disney Cruise Line. It was part of their medical staff. They said, hey, we're just calling to check back in with you and see how you're doing. How did you travel back to the U.S. or how was that experience? Want to make sure that if there's anything that you need. So they were still taking
above
care of
and
it
beyond, even after we're home, still checking in on us.
So this gentleman, he even said, well, this is my personal cell phone. I'll send you a text message with my details. If there's anything you need, go ahead, reach out anytime. So just those. Again, it was so touching to us, from in a position where we were kind of a little bit apprehensive and nervous, how we were taken care of at every single step, and we really had somebody in our corner working with us.
I've had a lot of people reach out to and say, because I kind of shared a little bit of our story on social media, because friends and family were like, how was your trip? And I'm like, about that. So I shared a little bit of my story, and people were like, wow, I've never cruised Disney, but this makes me want to.
It warms my heart that you guys are taken care of so well, because I know, in this day and time, a lot of times you don't hear that, right? Yeah. And it's amazing for them to have done all that they did to kind of help you through this challenging time of, being on this dream vacation. All of a sudden it goes a different way, but they got you all the way back home and checking up afterwards. I think that's just amazing on their part.
We wholeheartedly agree. We even said, if we had any desire to cruise any other cruise line, that desire is now gone. We were like, they've earned a partner for life in us in cruising. So yeah, we thought this is just such an amazing experience.
I just want to, I'll probably say it again, but I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing this experience with our listeners and everybody out there. So that, because we all know it's still out there, and I know people from our Facebook group from the cruise that I just got off of have tested positive since they came back. I don't know anybody that tested positive while they were on the ship necessarily. So I thank you so much for sharing this story. I think I know the answer to this. I know you guys are going to Walt Disney World coming up here soon, and I hope you have a wonderful trip there. But you said you'd be willing to, and have gotten kind of a cruise line for life. What's your next plans with Disney Cruise Line then?
So we definitely want to do another cruise by the end of this year, but right now we have the Wish scheduled for April of next year.
Wow. All right, so let's end it on kind of a fun note. Not that it's been all bad, but let's end it on a positive note. You guys have seen so much about the Wish. The Wish is on their inaugural sailing right now.
Yes, we've been following all of your Instagram account, like stuff you've been sharing. We're like, oh my gosh, do we really have to wait till next April?
What are you guys excited about? What makes you excited about the Wish? What can't you wait to try and see and experience?
Honestly, well, again, we've only been on the Wonder, so we're interested in the scale and the size of what the bigger ship would be, and we just seeing some of the photos, we think aesthetically it's kind of a different feel. So it'd be so interesting to kind of get to experience that.
The slide, of course.
Oh, yeah,
slide. No, and all the dining, the new dining experiences. That'll just be so much fun to like go into a new dining. I mean, we love all the dining, on the Wonder, but just to have something new now, I'm just excited for that.
Are you guys Frozen fans or Marvel or do you like the 1923 vibe of like kind of the classics?
That might actually be what I'm most excited
about. It reminds us a lot of Carthay Circle, so we're excited for that and to kind of just see all the cool stuff that's in there.
Yeah, I love the history and I love that era, just DCA in general, Disney, California Adventure and everything like that, or even Hollywood Studios at a Walt Disney World. So I'm really excited to hopefully experience 1923 here soon. So before we get out of here, though, do you have any tips that you would offer people who are either thinking about or maybe hesitant about going on Disney Cruise Line, or any tips that you've learned through your first cruise and on this cruise as well, as far as experiencing Disney Cruise Line for people, for our listeners?
Well, I'll do mine. Is anybody who's hesitant about Disney Cruise Line, I think you are in no better hands than with them. I think through our experience with COVID with Alex and just in general, you really have somebody who is gonna work with you and give you the best experience possible.
And Alex, any tips or thoughts?
I think that kind of sums it up, to be honest. I think in terms of tips,
dress warm.
Dress warm in Alaska. I guess, that was something like you kind of do have to bring like attire for all weather. I mean, like we went from like the glacier being like super cold and unprepared to it being like canoeing and it being like 75 degrees and it being really hot. So I think layers for Alaska.
Yeah, Alaska is one of those challenging spots. We were actually, my wife and I were just joking about this when we went to Norway, because Norway is kind of similar to Alaska as far as the weather goes. It was early June, and so we packed all this warm weather stuff, and it was cold and rainy the first day. And I remember like sitting out, I had a little mug of Glühwein that they were selling up on the pool deck and watching the kids, and it's pouring rain as we're going on the English Channel. And then the rest of the day, it was like the rest of the cruise was like in the 80s during the day, and so we had to go down to the store and buy clothes as well. Get some shorts and some t-shirts because we were packed way too warm. So yeah, good tips there. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on and sharing your experiences. I'm sorry that it kind of ended that way, but it warms my heart to see how Disney took care of you. And I love the story of the two of you getting engaged in Animator's Palette. And I think that is a special. My wife and I got engaged over a bridge in Boston. And whenever we go back to Boston and walk past that bridge, it just kind of brings back that special moment. And to me, I think that's cool that when you guys go on the Wonder now, and every time you go back to Animator's Palette, you'll have that special moment to kind of think back on. And hopefully someday, maybe I'm being a little forward, let's share it with your kids too when you guys go back on the Wonder and Animator's Palettes.
Yeah, exactly. I feel we said the Wonder, it's part of our story. So it's really special.
I love that. Well, once again, thank you guys so much for coming on and sharing your experiences. Thank you for being a listener of our show and supporting it. And I just want to wish you the best as you head down to Walt Disney World this summer and just enjoy the rest of it. Thank you once again for coming on.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Once again, I really want to thank Alex and Anthony for coming on and sharing their experiences as they sailed on the beautiful Disney Wonder up to Alaska. And unfortunately, their sailing had a little bit of a negative turn as Alex tested positive for COVID, but it was good to hear how Disney stepped up and helped them throughout their ordeal and the end of the trip on the Disney Wonder. Unfortunately, that's still just an aspect of cruising right now. People coming back from the parks and from the cruise line as well are still testing negative.
sometimes stays after. So I'd really like to thank them once again for coming on and sharing their story. Well, if you've enjoyed this show and you know others who would enjoy it as well, we sure would appreciate it if you pass it along. That helps us get a little bit better known in the Disney cruising, the Disney podcasting, and just the cruising podcasting community in general. We thank each and every one of you for taking the time to go over and leave us a starred review over at iTunes or Apple Podcasts, or wherever you may listen to this podcast. I'd also like to give a huge shout out to our Patreon supporters. They help bring you this show each and every week ad-free. If you'd like to find out more about our Patreon program where you can get some extra content each and every month, you can go to patreon.com/DCL podcast and find out all the information there. Well, summer is slowly winding down. I think I said that now with the last couple episodes, but I want to wish you and your families all the best if you're heading out on a Disney cruise, headed down to the parks, heading out at Adventures by Disney, or getting ready for your next Run Disney race. On behalf of myself, Steve, Christy, and Chris, all of us here at the DCL Podcast, we want to wish you to be well, enjoy time with family and friends, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.